Ready? Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we covered Acapulco, Santiago, and Dubai. And today we'll be breaking down the first week of Indian Wells, the first Masters 1000 of the season, and also known as the fifth slam. So without further ado, Aidan, you were on the grounds this week. Tell us, how was it? How did it feel? Was it like a fifth slam?
I mean, in terms of the feeling, I would say it did seem very similar to the US Open, down to the fact that they were selling a mixed drink called the drop shot with
Ooh.
like a very similar look, another commemorative glass for like past Indian Wells champions, but this the US Open, we all know they do the honey deuce with the
Hmm.
US Open champions.
How much were they? Do you know?
Yeah, I didn't I didn't get
Yeah,
one.
honeydews are like $25 now.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah, I
crazy.
know. Just inflation, right? But
Uh-huh.
yeah, I'd say it felt very similar. Honestly, though, I think because it isn't a slam, you did have a little bit more of tennis fans. Whereas at the US Open, you get people that go just because it's kind of an event.
Hmm.
And because of that, I did notice when I got there immediately, like I wanted to go see Fonseca versus Draper because that seemed like the premier matchup of the earlier session when I got there. But that match was full and there was no turnover ratio of people leaving that match pretty much. Like a line formed and it didn't move at all because nobody was leaving it since it was the premier matchup of that time frame. So that's kind of the main difference I felt. And I think it also felt kind of that when you had a popular player, that's what happened. We tried to get onto the stadium too to watch Coco Gauff play, and there was a line like going around the entire grounds to get in. So, but then later on in the day, after that match was over, there was like no line for the next match. So, yeah, it was some differences, some similarities, but overall, kind of a similar vibe, I'd say.
Yeah, sounds cool. And I feel like exactly what you mentioned, it's the first kind of big event, right? First 1000. So everyone who's an actual tennis fan is going to go. There's a lot of hype around it. Did you see any like Instagram people, influencers kind of like doing their thing? Did they have shops set up? Like, was it a lively grounds?
I'd say it was a lively grounds. There was definitely a lot of yeah, kind of like yeah, food places and
Hmm.
little pop-up things. So it was definitely a lively. It felt like I was saying very similar in terms of that aspect to the US Open. Uh Maybe even a little bit more Instagrammy given the fact that it is Southern California.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall great experience, I'd say.
Nice. So thanks for sharing. Let's just get right into it then. So before the tournament even starts, we have some unfortunate news. Nick Kyrgios suffered a wrist injury in practice, and this was unfortunate because he was pretty hyped up here. People were excited to see him play, and then all of a sudden, you're on Twitter or X, and you see a video of him kind of grabbing his wrist. He's wincing in pain. And, I didn't even think that he would be able to play a first round match, but he does. He ends up playing Botic van de Zandschulp in round one. And he actually played pretty well. Like he had a couple set points and he was down early in the match too. I think he was down a break, had to come back, force it to a tiebreaker. But only lasted one set, unfortunately. And then in the press conference after the match, it was just a big question mark for his career ultimately because you had a lot of reporters ask him about his wrist, about his plan to get back on track, and he really just didn't have an answer. One of the things he said that stuck out to me was there's no one that's had complete wrist reconstructive surgery and has like come back and been successful. So there's no one to look up to or no one to ask like, "Hey, what's the plan here?" I don't know what I'm doing. He's kind of just taking it a day at a time.
Yeah, and with that, I did see a lot of comments about his desire to play, which is kind of like a massive irony in a way, where when he was younger and healthy, he didn't really prioritize tennis. He loved the lifestyle and he loved doing all these other things. Yes, he played tennis and he it seemed like he enjoyed it because of his style of play, but it didn't seem like he was really focused on winning and being a super big professional out there. And now, when he does have that motivation to be out there and play, his body isn't keeping up with him. So, really, just a bummer here, just to see that sort of situation where it lets him down when he actually wants to be out there.
Yeah, 100%. That is a bummer because, he's matured, he's gotten more experience, and now, I feel like he took tennis for granted, right? Like now that
Exactly.
he wants to be out there, but unfortunately his body has limitations. And unfortunately the wrist is not something that, a lot of players bounce back from. I'm thinking Dominic Thiem, I'm thinking Del Potro, like these guys, their careers were never the same after.
100%. 100%.
But anyway, another headline we got this week is Djokovic losing his first round matchup to Van de Zandschulp. Speak of the
Again.
devil. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And just want to point out here that Van de Zandschulp, just another kill under his belt, right? So he's got Alcaraz in the US Open, ends his run there. And then he essentially ends Nadal's career.
Yeah, it was the
And then
last match,
now,
right?
yeah, his last match ever beats him. And then now Djokovic. So since we love alliterations and we love giving nicknames, I feel like, especially Morojan, the Hungarian headhunter, I decided to nickname Botic the draw destroying Dutchman, especially because he was a lucky loser in this draw too. So he like theoretically shouldn't have even been in there.
Yeah. I mean, the funny part is that there was another draw destroying Dutchman in this tournament
Yeah,
as well. So
the Greek sport, right?
yeah, Greekspor, we'll talk about it in a bit, but he
Yeah.
beat Zverev in the first round. So that's another wild one for the Dutch. I guess they're all just sleepers.
Jeez, yeah. But crazy stat about Djokovic. This was his third consecutive loss and the first time since 2018 that this has happened, and only the second time since 2008. So this begs the question, Aiden, how many more of these kind of quote unquote bad losses do you think Djokovic can take before he decides to hang it up? Because his coach, someone like Murray, went through this too, where he was just, playing for a while, where he was just making it one or two rounds and losing to guys that you would never even think of.
Yeah. I mean, I think it is really tough to say because you actually look at, speaking of Zverev, he played really well, obviously made the final of the Australian Open, and since then has played terrible. Djokovic has had a very similar thing, to be honest. Made the semis of the Australian Open and now three straight first round exits. So maybe it's just a down period of the year and he'll get back, he'll build back as the season goes on. But right now, yeah, it definitely looks like he's kind of coming to an end here.
Yeah, he played really sloppy too. I mean, so I think he had, I don't know the exact number of errors, but it was up there, double digits. And he lost the first set, won the second set. So you're kind of thinking, like, all right, this is typical Djokovic fashion, right? He kind of blows the first set, but then comes back and, ultimately he can't finish out the third set. He loses pretty handedly.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, yeah, it may be a focus thing. I don't know here.
I think also just the fact that Van de Zandschulp is gaining confidence in that way, where he's like, I've beaten Alcaraz at the biggest stage. I beat Nadal when everyone was watching. People don't necessarily expect me to win, but
Hmm.
I know that I can do it. And I'm not going to lose my confidence going into this third set.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all credit to Botic here too. Like I feel like we're more so highlighting the fact that Djokovic lost than Botic won. Well, he also played pretty well against Kyrgios too. And let me let me back up a second. So Boddick moves very well, surprisingly well, because he's kind of a bigger guy. And when he was playing Kyrgios, that's when I noticed it the most because Kyrgios plays kind of a disruptor style, right? He does a lot of trick shots, drop shots, like no look shots, and he was running Boddick all over the court, and he was getting there, and he was, finishing these points, like making Kyrgios play an extra point. And then so you kind of have that disruptor style. He does well against that. And then he goes and plays Djokovic, where it's the complete opposite, where you're going to get consistent strokes and just hang in there, hit baseline shots, and kind of wait for Djokovic to make the errors. He kind of beat him at his own game, essentially.
Yeah, I guess Djokovic's game is just letting him down a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Well, in other news, Riley Opelka had another outburst, and this comes just a month after his previous outburst in Dallas when he cussed out a fan and then got pissed at the ref, calling him, the worst umpire on tour because he got penalized for cussing out the ref. In this case, what happened here was I guess the sky was getting a little dark. He was complaining about visibility and he walked over to the sideline. He said, I'm not playing until they turn on the lights. The ref was like, come on, Riley, you got to play. He's like, no, I'm not playing. And then he's like, yo, you have to play or I'm going to give you like a point penalty. And he basically was like, all right, well, then I want to see the physio. The umpire was like, what do you mean you want to see the physio? He goes, yeah, I've had 4 wrist surgeries. I want to see the physio right now. She's like, all right, this is not the way to do it, but calls out the physio. Physio comes out. The lights turn on, so they must be on an automatic schedule. And then Riley's like, oh, I'm good. I don't need the physio. Gets back on court. So he gets an unsportsmanlike conduct for this. And in my opinion, this is not the right way to handle things. I thought this was pretty immature. It kind of just like left a bad taste in my mouth and gives gives tennis players that bad reputation of being divas, like, kind of always getting what they want and thinking the world evolves around them.
Yeah, I mean, my question here is like, was it in the middle of I didn't see this. Was it in the middle of like a game or was it at a changeover?
So it wasn't in the middle of a changeover, but it wasn't in the middle of a game. So it was at 1-1 in the second set, and he had previously just lost the first set after being up 5-2. So he was pretty pissed, and then he was about to serve and just decided to walk off the court.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, if it happened at a changeover, calling the physio is one thing, but just kind of going on strike in the middle of a match. If I was that umpire, I feel like the right move is literally to just, if it's his serve, to be like time wasting penalty
Mhm.
Opelka, and just
Yeah.
be like, yeah, you're just gonna get time wasting penalties for as long as you sit here until you go back out on the court.
Yeah, it is funny. Some of the refs get totally like manhandled by these players. Like a couple players that come to mind about this are Runa, Tsitsipas, Medvedev. Like those guys, they'll straight up tell the umpire, like, no, get your supervisor out here right
Tiafo.
now. Tiafo, oh my God. Well, speaking of Tiafo, he also remember he had a little outburst. Was that end of last year or was that the beginning of this year?
Yeah,
Do you
I don't
remember
remember
the
I don't remember
it
the
was
exact time, but
whatever, yeah, a couple
it,
months ago. Well, he got that was for a time violation on serve, and he got another one this week. But Watanuki, he was playing against Watanuki. Watanuki was like, "Hey, it's fine, don't worry. Like, I wasn't ready, and somehow he got
bailed
that
him out.
taken away. Yeah,
Yeah.
so close one there.
Yeah, I mean, I just think the reason that they get manhandled is because realistically, the umpire's job is they don't want to be an impact on them. They don't want to have an impact on the match.
Hmm.
But there are times where if a player is just like not following the rules, they should just enforce it strictly so that the player has to not just go by their own rules. They have to
Yeah,
follow the standards that everyone's playing by.
yeah. It is interesting that you bring that up because some refs are like more hard nosed or hard line than others, so you definitely get a different like flow of matches. But I don't know, man. Riley Opelka's kind of been in the news here pretty frequently for non-related tennis things, like when he's coming after doubles players and like not just making a comment, but like really honing in and digging in and making more and more comments about how doubles players are just failed singles players and, kind of mocking people who make a living out of playing doubles.
Yeah, I mean, if they're just failed singles players and like, why don't you
Yeah.
just focus on doubles? I mean, they don't get paid, I feel like, that much less. They can be successful in these tournaments. You can achieve more. Why not
Hmm.
just do both or be successful as a doubles player, right?
Yeah, it is funny. So nothing major, Jack Sock and the crew, Query, Isner, and Stevie Johnson. So Jack Sock has won slams, but on the doubles side, so they don't even count that. They're like, no, those half court slams do not count. You have never won a title.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's also just because of their
Yeah,
name of their podcast is not
right,
no major
right.
based on no major.
Nothing
So
major. Yeah, exactly.
I think in general you would consider him a slam champion.
Yeah, yeah. All right, and then in other news, we have Mickelson. He retires against Medvedev, and this was unfortunate because I was geared up to watch this. To me, this sounded like the best matchup of the day. I was excited for it. I put it on one screen, was gonna like do some work on the other, and then at I think two love, I hear Mickelson is retiring the match. Medvedev wins. I'm like, whoa, 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 what? And so I kind of like went back and rewinded to see if I could see any visible injury, but I didn't. So I'm not really sure what was going on here. That
Yeah,
was
based
kind
on
of
what I
just
was
out of
reading,
nowhere.
it looked like it was like food poisoning.
Oh, strikes
So
again.
yeah, just a bummer there. I mean, I agree. This was a match I thought was pretty big for Mickelson, to be honest. It seemed
Hmm.
like a great opportunity for him to maybe beat Medvedev, but in the end, it just is a great turn of chance, I guess, for Medvedev, where now he's gotten a ton of rest and will come into his next match with hopefully some freshness and will use that to his advantage.
Well, hopefully not, and we'll get into that a little later.
Oh,
But yeah, I
okay.
don't I hope he's not too fresh. Let's just put
Yeah.
it that way.
Sounds
And
good.
then some quick results here. Just not exactly headlines, but matches that we figured we got to mention. Zverev upset by Greek Sport. You had mentioned this earlier. Greek Sport is kind of rolling, man.
Yeah.
He,
I
he's
mean,
doing pretty well.
he's a guy that has definitely been a threat. He's played in a lot of big matches, I feel like, against great players. And this is a little bit of revenge to me for Greek Sport losing in the French Open in 5 sets against Zverev. He nearly beat him. I think he was up in the fifth set against Zverev, but Zverev ended up beating him there. But yeah, he's a guy where you see him in these matches, and he's not a top 20 guy, at least at this point, but he is still a threat in that 30 to 40 range.
Totally. Yeah, and then he had a big win over GMP too. And I don't know if this is me, but I was just I'm already considering GMP like a top 10 player. So I feel like anyone who beats him is like, oh my God, he beat GMP. And I feel like I need to take a step back and not give GMP as much credit as I do here.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
what are you surprised Greek Sport beat him?
I was I felt like it was a toss up match, to be honest. I felt like it could
Yeah.
have very much gone either way. With GMP, I do think, yeah, we have a lot of kind of hopes for him based on what we've seen in his talent level, but we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Kind of the same
Mhm.
thing with someone like Fonseca.
Yeah, definitely. And then a match that I actually wasn't surprised about, but Rude getting upset by Jerome. I kind of saw this from a mile away. Like Rude's been unpredictable. Jerome's been playing well. I didn't really expect much out of Rude here.
Yeah, not much to say about this one. I feel
Yeah.
like it was one of those matches where, yes, it's hypothetically a very high seed against an unseeded player, but going into it, I could have seen it go either way at the beginning. So, yeah,
Yes.
it wasn't really a massive upset in my mind.
No, and I kind of screwed my dad here because I was texting him like, "Oh, you watching Rude?" He's like, "No, I'm not." I'm like, "Oh, he just went down a set. I think he's got like minus 110 if you want to throw on him." I personally wouldn't, and my dad just like, of course, bet on him,
Yeah,
and he went on to lose.
yeah, happens.
Yep. And then Fonseca, he got a first round dub, but then he lost to Draper in the second round. And this was the match that you were trying to get into. Did you ever get in at all or no?
I did not. Like I said, the line
Oh,
just wasn't moving for this match.
yeah. Well, I was watching on TV and I was thinking of you. But dude, Fonseca is so good, but so inconsistent. Like his shots, he's going for a line almost every other stroke. It's crazy. And he just can't like harness all that power yet. But it's a good sign because he has it. And I think with coaching, like that'll start to tame.
I think part of it is with like the clay court where he's had a lot of success. He
Hmm.
gets a little bit more time to kind of wind up to go for those massive strokes. And on a hard court, even that fractional less time just impacts his ability to really be precise with his shots. And so that's why it gets a little more wild.
Yep. Good for Draper too. I mean, that's kind of a tough second round matchup too.
Yeah, definitely one that was not the easiest.
Right, right. And then FAA losing to Brooksby. That
Yeah.
I did not see coming.
Yeah, I mean, this was actually where I ended up going because I
Oh,
couldn't get into
nice.
the Fonseca match. Went over, watched this match, and it was pretty interesting. I mean, FAA just felt a little too wild. But the one thing that actually stood out in terms of shots was Brooksby's ability to take a cross court shot on his backhand and just push it right up the line. He hit like 3 or 4 winners like that, and FA was just like, "What is this shot? How is he able to do this?" But it was just an impressive shot. I think Brooksby is a guy that I also think was probably a tough draw for FAA, where he's been ranked a lot higher, but because he had to deal with like the ban that he had for
Mhm.
a little bit there, he's ranked a little lower right now. So a tough matchup for FAA.
Yeah, he's also got that strange two-hander drop shot. Did you see any of those?
I didn't see anyone when I was watching.
Dude, look
Maybe I
it up.
missed it.
It's an interesting shot because he disguises the drop very well. And then other matchups, Rublev loses to Arnaldi. Not really surprised there. Lerner Tien, first round loss. So kind of I don't want to say a waste of a wild card, but not really living up to my expectations. And Tsitsipas, Dimitrov, Rune, they're all still alive, which is good. Good for the tournament because you got three big names. And then as far as Americans, we got Fritz, Shelton, Paul, Jerome, and Nakashima still in there. Korda lost to Monfils second round. I'm still waiting for him to break out. I feel like every single tournament, I'm just kind of like, all right, this is gonna be Korda because he was one of those top American guys, like arguably one of the most talented out of all of them, but he just hasn't been able to catch a break here.
Yeah,
And
you just
then
can't lock in that consistency, I feel like.
I know, and I think it might be an injury too. I think an injury set the course when he was getting hot a couple of years ago, and then just hasn't really bounced back since. And then Tiafo lost to Watanuki, as I mentioned before, and Brooksby lost to Draper. So, pretty decent for Americans here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them in the draw,
Yeah, yeah.
and so that gives a better chance for them to make it through a few rounds.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's touch on some miscellaneous things that I just kind of noticed throughout the tournament. Shelton cranked a 150-mile-an-hour serve, but he ended up losing the point, which is freaking crazy.
Yeah, I mean that just shows who was he playing? Navoni.
Yeah, it was too funny though. He just kind of like got it back there. Like Navoni with a decent return just got strings on it.
Yeah, that's one of those ones where they say like in baseball, the faster the pitcher throws it, the harder you're gonna hit your
Yeah,
your
yeah.
get your hit because Shelton cranks it at 150 and the return all of a sudden comes back. He's like, how did he just get that back so
Yeah,
quickly?
exactly. I'm sure. So this happened to me. I played in a tournament over the weekend and I hit a serve on the ad side, like out wide, nice serve. And I kind of started to celebrate as if I had hit the ace already. And then the opponent got his racket on it. It didn't go in, but I was like already running off as if I like won the point. And then I was like, oh shit, the ball's in the air, but it landed out. So I feel like
Yeah,
that's kind of Shelton here. Like he bombs the serve and then was just kind of shocked that it came back. I was like, whoa, come
yeah.
on. You're not supposed to hit that.
That's the worst is when you hit a nice serve and then they put it back like on the baseline and you're like, now I'm on the
Yeah.
defensive. I
Yeah.
thought my serve was great.
Yeah. And then did you see the Sinner lookalike ball kid?
I did not. I
Oh,
did not.
this is hilarious. So I log on to X and I see this picture of this ball kid and he looks almost identical to Sinner, like a younger version. And the caption is Sinner trying to find work while on his suspension.
That's crazy.
So yeah,
That's
I got
wild.
got a good laugh out of that. And then another funny moment that happened during the tournament, Tiafo walks out there on the court for the pregame and goes to take his racket out of the bag and realizes he forgot his rackets,
Yeah,
which
that
I
was
don't know
wild.
how
You
you
know,
do
did you see what
that.
he did in the next match too?
No.
He walked out there and like opened up his bag and like started looking around like he'd forgotten the rackets again. And
Yeah.
the umpire came over and then he was like, nah, I got him in here
Yeah,
this
that's
time.
funny. He's a performer there. And then we got some celebs. So like Aiden, would it even be a tennis tournament in the US if celebs didn't show up? Like, come on, tennis is hot right now.
Yeah, especially in LA, right? Or near
In
LA.
LA? Yeah. So we got Timothy Chalamet. Yeah, Timothy Chalamet and his girlfriend Kylie Jenner.
Yeah, I mean, Chalamet killing it right now, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, his movie was pretty big. Did it win an Oscar? I don't know.
Which one? Was it Bob Dylan?
Yeah, that one. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I think it's just Bob Dylan's story. Yeah, did you? I think they went to see Runa too, which was kind of an interesting one to see. But um, anyway, another one, another not quite a celebrity, but maybe a celebrity in the tennis realm was the beekeeper from last year. Remember the quarterfinal
Oh
where it
yeah.
got postponed, a couple hours because the bees just infested the court, the Alcaraz Zverev quarterfinal. So it was funny during the Alcaraz match, the beekeeper from last year came out to do the coin flip, and Alcaraz kind of looked at him and cracked up. He's like, I did not expect to see him here.
Yeah. Jason Statham, you mean?
Yeah. Oh my God. Someone actually told me to watch that movie the other day. I'm like, I can't.
Just because, why not?
Uh, the beekeeper,
Dude, it's
right?
just such a classic Jason Statham action movie.
So just bodies dropping
Pretty
everywhere.
much, pretty much.
Oh man.
Beside the point, though.
And then lastly, did you see the Indian Wells skit that the ATP put on?
I did not.
Oh, this was funny. They kind of did like, The Office, the TV show.
Yeah.
They did one of those where like I want to say Djokovic was supposed to be Michael Scott because he was sitting at a desk, but they did like interviews with the players like in that like funny way and then had them out
Like a
in
little
real life like
mockumentary.
yeah, mockumentary, and it was super funny. Deminar is a really good actor. Like he is made for this shit. Everyone else was a little awkward and kind of like, still funny but not good. Like Deminar is talented.
I feel like it's just the commitment to the role, right?
Yeah. Oh, he is funny. He is funny. So like it was stupid things like teaching tennis, but not actual tennis. So like Bublik was out there like showing all these people how to smash a racket. And like
That's wild.
Deminar was out there showing them how to peel a banana. He's like three peels, three
Yeah.
peels.
No, you know what's funny? Actually, a real life example of someone doing something like that was I remember I was at a court one time and the court next to me, this coach was teaching like, I don't know, 7 year olds tennis. I'm like, okay, so you would assume he's like teaching them how to do like a basic forehand, backhand. And he's instead teaching them like, so when you're hitting a jumping backhand, you want to raise your leg up first so you can get the right rotation. I'm like, dude, teach them how to hit the ball first before you jump
Yeah.
into the jumping backhand. That's wild.
Yeah. No, so if you haven't checked it out, definitely go watch it. It's like 4 or 5 minutes, pure comedy. And like honestly, good media. Like they're doing a lot more, I feel like, which is good. Get the players involved.
100%.
Yeah, and then lastly, former Painting Lines guest Eliza Westcott, she was out there and she was brutalizing the fashion collection that was out there. She was like, she made this funny video just kind of shitting on like all the collections there. So
Not a fan. Not a fan of the
not a
Indian Wells
fan.
this year.
Yeah, she knows her style too. She had, I think, a couple good ones, but no, for the most part, like it was pretty ugly.
Well,
Yeah.
anyway, that wraps it up, I think. So you had to hop into segments.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
So I saw that the release date came out for the Carlos Alcaraz Netflix doc. It's coming out April 23rd, 2025, and it's going to chronicle his 2024 season. I like this. I think it's great for the sport, especially because Breakpoint kind of flopped. What F1 Drive to Survive did for the sport of F1, this Carlos Alcaraz doc is essentially trying to emulate what they're doing there, bring people to the sport, and honestly, no better person to do it than Alcaraz. I think right now he's the most exciting player to watch. He's fun, he's young, he's, a showman out there. So hopefully his off the court scenes are pretty interesting too, because he doesn't speak much English. So I don't know, how many other people can resonate with that, but I don't know. I'm excited to watch it. I'm gonna definitely tune in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with Breakpoint, the reason it kind of flopped was they had a muddled audience for it. I think the people that watch tennis are not super interested in it because they already know everything that happened. And I think that kind of happens with all of these documentaries is if you actually watched the season live, it's a lot less entertaining because the drama kind of gets cut out in many
Hmm.
ways. Um, and I think with Formula One, the reason it was so successful is because people didn't know the sport at all, and there's a limited amount of people in it, and so you got to know each of kind of the characters in the show, and you didn't necessarily, if you weren't following the sport, you didn't know what the results were going to be. In this situation, I'm not the biggest fan of this documentary just because I think it's better for uh, them to do this after his career. I think everyone loved The Last Dance, obviously, and
Hmm.
that kind of kicked off, I think, Netflix's whole sort of documentary, sports documentary series. They saw how good The Last Dance was. I mean, they'd done other ones, but they've found success in these sports documentaries. Now they're doing them about everything pretty much. I just feel like doing one about one season. Yes, Alcaraz's 2024 season was great, but I just feel as though it's better to do it after the season is over.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if other players on tour are gonna watch this and try to like pick out some inside information to exploit him. Because I feel like there is some personal stuff that you can kind of see like, oh, what's he like before matches? Or how does he recover? I don't know, just certain things that, you might pick up on.
Yeah, but
What's going on
I
inside of
feel
his
like a lot
head?
of the recovery techniques and stuff like that are probably relatively common knowledge.
Hmm.
And
I guess more of the mental side.
yeah, maybe the mental preparation you can get
Yeah.
some points from. I don't know.
Yeah. So what about you? What did you see?
Mine is about the Watanuki versus Tiafo match. Actually, interestingly, Watanuki is the lowest ranked man to reach the fourth round at Indian Wells in over 20 years. He's ranked number 349. The last guy that was ranked lower than him was Tommy Haas in 2004. Uh, and I just think Watanuki came into that match with no fear. He hit 47 winners in the match. And I think that combined with the fact that maybe Tiafo overlooked him, given the fact that he is so low ranked, I think that Tiafo didn't necessarily prepare for an opponent that was perhaps underranked or should be ranked higher. I don't know. But anyway, how about a bet of the week?
Bet of the week, I am taking Tommy Paul plus 100 over Medvedev, which is why earlier in this episode, when you were like, oh, I hope Medvedev, hopefully he can come out like well rested. Hopefully he can't because I'm taking Tommy. I think this is going to be a good match. I think we're going to see some revenge here because Medvedev got the best of him last year in this tournament in the semis, and I think Tommy Paul's coming with vengeance. I think Medvedev is struggling. Tommy's doing well. I just think Tommy gets it done. I think anytime he's plus 100 against Medvedev, I got to take it.
Yeah, I was actually looking at this one, but I wasn't sure whether plus 100. I still have that Medvedev thought in my head of like
Hmm.
Medvedev from a year and a half ago. And I don't know whether it's the same Medvedev, obviously, right now, but you see his name and you're like, oh, these odds are so close. I would have taken Tommy Paul maybe with better odds, but I didn't feel like plus 100 to me was the value. But I do respect the pick of Tommy Paul. I think he has a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, no, it's a, kind of emotional too because like I'm fully rooting for him. I'm excited about this one.
Yeah, I think it's a good bet. I think I respect it.
Yeah, how about you? Who are you taking?
I'm taking a wild one. I'm going Shapovalov plus 400 over Alcaraz.
Whoa, plus 400.
Yeah, this is a long shot, but I think honestly, Shapovalov has played great since the Australian Open. He won Dallas. He made the semis in Mexico. He won his first round pretty easily. And while they have had one matchup in the past and Alcaraz did win, it was on clay. So I think Alcaraz or Shapovalov does have a better chance on hard court. And I also just think plus 400 is pretty juicy odds. So I think that if Shapovalov does get it done, pretty nice payout there.
Yeah, that's one of those like black swan events where you just kind of put a little bit of money on there and, hope for the best.
Exactly.
Like just take a couple of those. I like it. I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, we know Alcaraz sometimes doesn't play super clean. So if Shapovalov can get him off his rhythm, maybe he can get it done.
Yeah, that'll be exciting to watch.
But yeah, how about a match of the week?
Match of the week. I'm going with the new kid on the block, Colton Smith. He beat Kaboli this week. I went for this one because I think it's a great story. So Colton Smith is a senior at U of A, and with this win, he just picked up his first ATP win, first Masters 1000 win, obviously, in this match, and he had to come back to do it. He lost the first set 3-6, won the next two. The kid plays super aggressive, is like always rushing the net. A lot of fun to watch, good hands, and he's kind of got that X factor too. Like he plays in a muscle shirt. He's got a massive tattoo sleeve, wears a camo hat, and he's just, I feel like he's what the sport needs. He's exciting. He's young. He's up and coming. I don't know. It's kind of because he is in college. It's kind of interesting to see because like this could be one of the guys that he may not have a career out of tennis. So this win means a lot to him, and like getting to see him play does mean a lot because I feel like a lot of the players kind of discount college players. Like a lot of the college guys aren't doing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think this kind of energy reminds me of someone like JJ Wolf.
Exactly. I was thinking JJ Wolf, dude.
I mean,
You read
muscle
my mind.
shirt, and with him it was a mullet. With this guy, it's a camo hat.
Yeah, yeah, mullet and like earrings. But yeah,
100%.
no, they're both country boys. Like I think in the interview, they're like, "Oh, is this one of your like favorite moments of all time?" He goes, probably second. The first was going elk hunting with my sister.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it
Some
just goes to show the type of guy he is.
yeah.
All right, how about your match of the week?
I'm going with Dimitrov defeating Borges mainly because I was at the match and it was just very interesting to watch. I felt honestly, interestingly, was Borges, if he could force the rally to a neutral state, it felt as though he had a great chance of actually forcing Dimitrov to miss first. But Dimitrov did a great job of kind of keeping momentum. Like he would hit a strong serve or return and then would try to kind of keep the pressure on during the point. Uh, and then one thing that stood out from this match was there was this crazy game in the second set with 11 deuces. Lasted like 20 minutes, and Dimitrov ended up holding, but it was just wild back and forth. Borges got a bunch of chances to break. Dimitrov had a bunch of chances to serve it out before that, but in the end, he held and then was able to close it out in two sets. But overall, just I think a great match, and Dimitrov showed off some pretty impressive movement as well. Had some crazy gets at the net, and overall just great footwork. And just considering the fact that he's 33, it was really cool to see.
Yeah, you got some great footage for the gram.
Yeah, exactly. I
That
mean, if
was a
you want to
good.
check that out, it shows off his ability to kind of move around the court and get in the right position.
Yes, sir, it does. And so we saw Dimitrov at the U.S. Open. We also saw Borges. So you're seeing them again here too. Play each other. It's pretty
Exactly. And
funny.
speaking of college guys in the pros, Borges,
Yep.
Mississippi State alum.
Yep. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.